Hello and welcome to Sports Sometimes. My name is Chris Crawford. Thank you so much for joining us. This is episode 3 on YouTube. It's like episode 18 or whatever when I was doing these audio. Thank you guys so much for asking about the audio episodes. By the way, they're gone. They're in the ether. They are absolutely the previous host. I asked if there was a way to get them back and post them on YouTube, and they said, ha 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 ha. So the format of the show, and if you're new to this, you're probably not thrilled so far with what you've heard. My name is Chris Crawford. What Sports Sometimes is we talk about sports with sports and sports adjacent people for the first half of the show. And then in the second half of the show, I don't like working. So I make the guest come up with the topic, but they can't tell me what that topic is until we actually start talking about it. Very special guest today. Patrick, I'm not going to lie to you. You're following some really good ones. You're following David Roth and Mike Duncan.
Yeah, that's no good.
The fact that you're third in this situation, but there's good reason for it. He has covered fantasy football for a very long time. He's now someone I consider a friend, whether he likes it or not. Please welcome my good friend, Patrick Daugherty. How are you doing, buddy?
Very good. Biggest same. We're real life friends, actual friends. Well, honestly, this industry is pretty good for that.
It is.
It's a good industry. Nice people. You're following Roth in particular, whose work I'm most familiar with is one of the premier American wordsmiths right now. One of he understands the capital T, this capital E era so much better than anyone else. I do not, but yes.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you too, Pat. This is the first of these three where I haven't felt super intimidated. You know what I mean? And look, you're better than me. You are. There's a reason why you're in the guest chair rather than the host, is because you're better and don't have to come up with things like this. But like talking to Roth and then talking to Mike Duncan, who is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life. And if you guys haven't checked out his podcast, if you are into history at all, please do that. Like, what are you on history, Pat? Are you a big history buff?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I
mean, I'm big what you'd call like popular history, not in like podcast form, but like any like dad book that comes out, like the new, like I'm looking over at my bookshelf right now, Rick Atkinson. He began his Revolutionary War trilogy a few years ago, been eagerly awaiting part 2. Like any famous like norm core history book, like all the Robert Caro LBJ books. I read Hamilton before Lin-Manuel Miranda did. Thank you very much. That's my favorite genre of book, and I've got so many like popular history.
And how many rap songs did you write after you read it too?
I know. I missed. First I actually did it. I did a whole rap play, and then I found out someone else was already doing it, and that's why I actually am in the fantasy sports industry now, because that did not pan out.
If that thing actually did exist, and if I could just drop it like right now, I could go so viral, so very viral for probably the wrong reasons, but
don't tell my dad, but I got my dad a book on Captain James Cook for Christmas.
Nice.
And, I'm midway through writing a rap play about Captain James Cook and his travels around the world.
That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. It's kind of nice being a PNW guy because history, there's history. Obviously, you're in Missouri. There's lots of history there, but we have such an interesting story of how everything around here was built. And we have, the indigenous, and unfortunately, we have such sad stories there as well. But like to say, we had to do state history like crazy. Did you have to do state history like crazy?
We did. So when I think of Pacific Northwest history, beyond just our extremely poor treatment of our native peoples, I think of furs. Furs always come to mind, of course.
Sure.
Here we have a somewhat similar deal where I'm actually reading a book right now. We have the Cahokia Mounds, the Cahokia and Mississippian people who were here with like almost like Mesoamerican style civilization. And first off, I've never been to the mounds, even though they're like 30 minutes away from my house.
Wow.
And I was like, I need to know a lot more about the Cahokia people. And it was an impulse purchase when I was Christmas shopping last week.
Nice.
Trying to find the Captain James Cook book. And I'm now reading like a short, like easily digestible history of the Cahokia Mounds and the Mississippi culture.
I wish I could say I was reading something interesting, but it's just Marmaduke right now, Pat. Just Marmaduke. That dog thinks he's people. So let's talk about some sports. And I want to talk to you about fantasy football and the NFL and the relation to it. And I'll just ask you straight up. How much is fantasy football carrying the NFL right now?
A lot. Because, yeah, I mean, NFL was kind of like everything else, like the late 2000s, like early 2010s, where, baseball and the NBA, and kind of like both like aged out of like their superstar era. Griffey was gone, Bonds was gone, all my roided up home run kings were gone, like Mark McGuire and all that. And that was bad for baseball.
Sure.
The NBA, was well past like the dream team era. And they were in the early stage of like of the LeBron era. But there was kind of like all the North American sports. They weren't in crisis, but it seemed like there was like a sense they had peaked in like the late 2000s, whatever the first decade of this century is called. And, baseball and the NBA are still kind of reckoning. They still don't quite know what their future is.
Sure.
Whereas the NFL, somehow like the money spigot turned on like more than ever, and, began like hurtling into the future more than ever. And I'm sure part of it is just because of what a dream TV product it is. But there's no doubt that, you couldn't get people interested in a Thursday night football game between the Jaguars and Titans 15 years ago. Even when the fantasy football was already going. Yeah. Like there's just zero doubt. Of course, betting is a big part of this too now, but there's zero doubt in my mind that if the very worst, an accelerant of the explosion is fantasy football, if not one of the primary causes of like the NFL's just true behemoth status. Because like seriously, why would normal people, even though we have such NFL fever, like why would you be watching Broncos Chargers on Thursday night if you didn't have at least some stake in it? And there's just no doubt that it's been a big part of like the NFL not only like not plateauing, but just somehow continuing to grow.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. And I will say this, another portion of why I think fantasy is in particular carrying the sport is, and I say this with all due respect to it, and I still love it. We talked about this the last time we did this. I just don't think the quality of games is all that good right now, Pat. And it has something to do with the haves and have-nots. And boy, Paul Tagliabue would just hate this NFL, like just hate it, because one of the big things about him, and for those of you who are not old enough to remember Paul Tagliabue, first go fuck yourself. Like this is ridiculous. Yeah, like please don't come watch my show. You're far too young for this. Just watch Bluey. I love Bluey too, but like come on. And second of all, he was the former commissioner of the NFL, and the big thing for Paul Tagliabue was parity. There's no parity in the NFL right now, Pat. Like I look at, there's 4 really, really good teams, and then there are a good 15 to 20 that are just a lot of years would be the worst team in the NFL. Like there are so many bad teams, and that sounds hyperbolic. The 15 to 20 mark probably is a little bit, but there are 15 teams that would be like, oh, well, that's a top 5 pick type of year. I just think that the quality of games, and I don't want you to crap on the product that you cover, like, because that would be silly. And I cover it too. For those of you who don't know, I cover some NFL for NBC and enjoy doing it and want Pat to keep giving me the games, even though I'm saying all of these things. But there's kind of no denying that the quality here is not the same level it was, say, 7 years ago.
It's several things here. First, the NFL does the true parity, of course, that the NFL wants is the financial parity.
Right. Yeah.
They are kind of like having their cake and eating it too with the parity. I am saying parity, by the way. I feel like I can't pronounce it.
It's a tough one.
But they're having their cake and eating it too, where they have the financial parity, but then they still do have the superstar teams like driving like the greater media narratives and interest in the league.
Sure.
Whereas I'm sure you agree on this front. For baseball, like I genuinely do not want the financial parity for baseball, because the thing I still love about the baseball model is that if you want to be special, you can be special. And it is annoying, even as a Cardinals fan, even as a fan of like one of the bigger like mid-sized teams, whatever you want to call the Cardinals. It is easy to feel jealous and annoyed of like the Dodgers and Mets getting so soundly outspent. But I like the baseball as a model where you don't have to be the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like every team in the NFL like has to be the Jacksonville Jaguars. There are some differences in how the revenue is distributed, but you're basically all on the same footing as the Jaguars. One of the things that keeps baseball special to me is that you can be a special team. Like I hate in hockey how they win the Stanley Cup and they have to dismember the team.
Right.
I hate that so much. So I like it about baseball. But anyways, they love the financial parity. Sorry to be ping-ponging all over
No,
here.
that's great.
As for the product in the league and the NFL right now, I just think they're kind of caught between eras. And, the player safety thing maybe has something to do with it. But of course, an admirable goal that couldn't be avoided. But like the passing golden age, everyone thought would just last forever. And it just has. I think one really underplayed storyline. So like the mid-teens or whatever the last decade's called. Everyone thought like, it's forever and ever a passing league. Like, it's only going to go up, more and more explosive pyrotechnic offenses from here. Where I think an underplayed storyline is it actually was just an anomaly, like how many Hall of Fame quarterbacks were playing at once. And two defenses finally reacted to the style of offense too. And like the league just can't quite figure out like what it is right now. And of course, there's like the same efficiency beast that's doing bad things to baseball, bad things to the NBA, where like the NFL, short passing and blah, 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 where it's getting a little too samey from everyone. I feel like that is hurting the product a little, where everyone's kind of pursuing the same strategies now, because again, once you learn the best strategies, not like you can unlearn it.
Sure.
But those are some of the things that I think is affecting like the quality of the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's just tough for me right now. Like if I'm not working on a game, I thank God for Red Zone. I really do, because there's so much bad play in between there's bad play once you get in the red zone. I'm a Seahawk fan who watches Geno Smith in the red zone every single week. So I know that there's
like it's worse in the red zone. Yeah.
It's so much worse in the red zone. Yeah. And one of the things I think that's really underrated in terms of what's hurt the quality of play is we talk about the quarterbacks and how we were fortunate. Like you said, we have lived in a golden era of quarterbacks there for a little bit, and we're not in a golden era. There's some really good quarterbacks, but we're not in a golden era.
It's nothing like Breeze, Manning, Brady. It's just nothing like that.
Breeze, Manning, Hasselbeck, absolutely. That's right in that same genre. But one of the things that's really underrated, I think, is how offensive linemen are trained, for lack of a better term, in college, because these offensive linemen are taught a system that flat out does not work in the NFL. No. You watch these guys in this spread offense and sometimes in this air raid offense where like me and you are closer sometimes than the splits than some of these offensive linemen play in this air raid system. And it just doesn't work. And I think we're starting to see a little bit more pro style in college football lately, in part because I think that is a major selling point for college teams now is, hey, I'm going to train you to be an NFL player. You're going to have the success, and they're going to like that. You're going to like that you get the chance to play in a system that translates to the next level. You may not have the same gaudy stats, or you might actually give up a couple of sacks. It's very rare when first offensive linemen do that, but you'll actually be ready for that. I think that's getting better, but offensive line play, I think, is a major factor in why the product hasn't been so good.
No, it's ball knowers like always assure me that is one of the main reasons. I'm still, after all these years, I don't know, listen, man. Like, as long as he throws the ball, that's one way like area. Like, I don't need to know how the sausage is made. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
If a guy can throw a block, I don't care. And I'll tell you how one way we know that fantasy is one of the things carrying the NFL along, where other leagues are not necessarily struggling, but are just kind of adrift. Like MLB just like doesn't know what its future is right now.
Right.
It knows that it's going to be around.
Sure.
MLB is like the American cockroach. Like there's nothing you can do. Truly nothing you can do to kill it.
No.
But the NFL, so anyway, the quality of play. Every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, I watch 2 games. I try to give myself one good game and then one like lesser game I don't have to focus on as much.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like frequently I'm watching, like the New York Giants or the Carolina Panthers, and I don't even notice the poor quality of play sometimes because all I care about is the fantasy points,
Right.
And like, it's just another thing where fantasy helps the NFL is that it just forces you to learn the players. So it's not just about stars. You have like very casual fans who are being forced to like learn the players. And it's just a huge advantage because baseball, it basically like handing out flyers to get people like, there are players other than Shohei Ohtani. Like, we swear to God, like Mason Wynn. Like if Mason Wynn were in the NFL, everyone would know who he is because he would have been drafted and you're playing him every week.
It's funny you bring that up because I was just thinking about the card market right now, and there are some massive rookies right now, like Paul Skeens stuff. You've probably heard the Paul Skeens story about the the MLB debut patch, and Ellie De La Cruz is a massive chase, and there's some other ones. And Mason Wynn's kind of been lost in the shuffle, like his card values just don't have. By the way, this was interesting to me. So the Pirates, for those of you who don't know, Topps comes out with this new product now where they take the MLB patch from somebody's sleeve, they put it inside of a card, they have them autograph it. There's only one of that card, and they put them in this product called Topps Chrome Update, and they sell for a lot of money. But the Pirates offered a deal, a sensational deal, $250,000 worth of stuff before some other stuff that probably takes it in. And most people think, no, that would be stupid. You could probably get $1 million for this card. By the way, you can also go sit in a suite with Livy Dunn. No comment. But I will say the Junior Caminero card, Junior Caminero, one of the top prospects in baseball, a guy who's already had MLB success, it went for $66,000. And I went, that's it? Is that really all that is? And now some of this has to do with like where Junior Caminero plays. He's literally playing in a minor league stadium next year, but he literally plays for a minor league team. Is that surprising to you? Like hearing how some of these other stuff, I know you're not as big a card guy as me, but like 66,000 for a guy who's been ranked as the top prospect in baseball for a few years. Is that a little surprising?
It has to be all the team, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, too, like maybe they don't know how a non-American, like, will he still be like popular in 10 years?
Sure.
Like, will he actually? I'm sure that has a little something to do with it too.
Right.
But also beyond just being on the Rays, it is this kind of knowing, like, having no clue like what franchise he might be on in 5 years too.
That's a good point.
And it is interesting though, because like it's not like the Pittsburgh market is that much better than Tampa. But,
no, it's really surprised me because I talked about this with David. That's the subject that he picked for the second half of his show, was talking about this stuff. It's pitcher stuff does not sell for diddly doo-doo. Like they are not a popular thing. But Paul Skeens is the most popular product in a year where there's lots of popular players right now. There's Jackson Churio, there's Jackson Holiday, there's Jackson Merrill, there's that's all.
I guess too, he has to be the off-field purchase that I guess he has, where he's got like the destitute man's like Travis Kelce situation going on a little bit.
Yeah. But it's pretty crazy how much Skeens has become such a popular player in a spot. Now, look, I'd love Pittsburgh to become a destination. It has the best ballpark in baseball, in my opinion, and it has, not far from there is Altoona, the only pizza worse than St. Louis pizza. But you knew it was going to be brought up. You knew at some point I was going
Altoona
to.
Altoona has been in the news a bit lately.
Yeah, Altoona's definitely been in the news, just a smidgen. You mentioned college football, and
I got to say real quick, final thought on Skeens. One of the very rare MLB players too, who it's not like he was famous before he came into Major League Baseball.
Sure.
But he was like, for a college baseball player, he was very famous. And I'm sure that helps too.
100%. Played for a very popular team. Before that, played at Air Force, which I think maybe helps a little bit with like the
marketing and all that and
that type of stuff. But
college baseball, by the way, there's something ineffable going on there too, where it's getting bigger in a way that I'm not entirely, maybe because of NIL.
A little bit. And ESPN has, I think, figured out a way to market the game a lot better.
I have started watching in the past year. I had never bothered. Like I always kind of followed it, but like I know the College World Series, people have like spoken so highly of it for years. I had never watched it. And I think it was LSU 2 years ago. I started watching the College World Series and I watched it again this year. And there's something going on there, I feel like.
Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens, that was definitely popular. And then that Tennessee team that had like 14 players drafted in the first 3 rounds was pretty fun to watch as well. That's on my bucket list. Let me ask you about that. There are 3 things that I've never done that I really want to do as a sports fan. I really want to go to Augusta and watch the Masters.
Of course. Yeah.
I want to go to a Duke basketball game. A Duke UNC would be the preference. I think that would be just something that would be really fun. I grew up a Duke fan. I'm sorry. I root for Duke and Notre Dame.
Very curious. Yeah, Duke, Notre Dame, curious.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I don't like the Yankees and the Lakers.
Thank God, yeah.
But and then number 3 on that list is the College World Series. What's on your bucket list?
Well, any answer to this feels cliche, but my definite bucket list, I've already missed part of it. I want to go to not just Wimbledon, but a Wimbledon final.
Okay.
And 2, missing the Federer Nadal era completely is quite a drag.
Yeah.
I do badly want to go to Wimbledon. I mean, I'd love to go to the French Open. I will be at a tennis major at some point. but Wimbledon is so high up on the list.
Sure.
That's the only one that I've ever had like a bucket list type poll to. It was like, man, like I gotta make it to Wimbledon sometime.
Yeah.
Augusta, of course, would be amazing too. But I don't like I will like sometimes sit and like daydream about, man, yeah, I would love to go to Wimbledon. That's like the one where I feel like a true like bucket list type calling.
So I'm very English, very, very English. My dad was born in Swindon. All of his family was born in England as well. So like that would be cool to kind of knock that off. You know, like if I went to go see where I'm from, I was supposed to go watch Notre Dame Navy play in Ireland.
I remember that
2020, and something happened in 2020, and I
don't remember. I have no clue.
Put my finger on what that was.
Yeah.
By the way, I always forget that I would like to go to the U.S. Open, but anytime I've gone to Stanford and taken the the little car from LaGuardia to there, and you pass by that area, you're like, oh yeah, actually that would be a pretty fun one too. Absolutely,
right on the flight path. But yes, other than that, no.
There used to be this contest on KJR, which is a station I've hosted, and you've come on actually one time when I was doing that. You did a great job. They used to do this thing called the Bigger Dance, and I'm not going to tell you what the Bigger Dance was because it was a horribly, horribly outdated thing. But the winner of the contest every year got to pick one sporting event to go to anywhere in the world. And most people picked the Australian Open, and it wasn't because they really wanted to see the tennis. It's because you got a free trip to Australia.
They say the most expensive ticket you could possibly
exactly.
find. Yes.
Yeah. Boot. A trip to Australia, the Australian Open would be pretty cool. Like
it'd be amazing. The Australian Open seems like an absolutely amazing event.
Yeah, I would put it fourth on the tennis major scale, but that's only more compliment to the other ones than it is insult. Okay, let's go quickly through these next ones because I know you're going to have a great subject to come up with. You mentioned the college football. The playoff is starting today. I'm going to be posting this Monday, but I'm already pissed off that Indiana has beaten Notre Dame. Like I'm furious. I'm very, very furious about it.
Not even the Domers can botch this one, right?
Are you?
I'm truly knocking on wood. Actually,
are you excited about this?
I am. I mean, I will say it is the classic. It does not seem as special now that there's so many games.
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost as big as the NFL playoff field.
Yeah,
it's just a little weird. Too, I get the on-campus idea, but it seems like the buzz is lacking a little. It's bad that not only is it during Christmas break, it's before Christmas.
Yes,
I feel like it's really hurting it a little bit. You know, there were all sorts of rumors like Penn State's not even selling out, and it probably will. But it's just it feels a little like it's sneaking up on me. And you know, sports don't sneak up on me, and it's still kind of like, man, yeah, wow, the playoffs starting on Friday, December 20th. Okay, like it's kind of just there's like a bit of a sense of randomness to it, but I'm sure it'll be an amazing event, and I am very excited. I love big time college football.
I do too. And I totally understand the flaws with college football. And I understand that a lot of people look, Washington State, who, you know, I'll just be honest, I hate what's happening to Washington State right now.
Awful.
You've heard their quarterback transfers, their coach leaves a couple days later after telling a bunch of people about how committed he was to helping them rebuild the Pac-12. RIP. They can call it whatever they want. That's not the Pac-12, man. That is not the Pac-12.
Pac something.
But, and I get that there are a lot of people who are upset with how all of this works. I also think people need to understand that all of this chaos is a long time coming, and it's what you get when you have indentured servitude in college football for 50 years. And I don't feel bad for these programs even a little bit. I feel bad for fan bases of smaller schools, no question about it. But you're a fan base of a smaller school. There are always going to be things that hurt you. It sucks that this is what's hurting you, but this was a reckoning that was a long time coming. And if this is what it takes for players to get the billions of dollars that they've earned, and they're not even getting close. Like I looked up the other day, NCAA 25, which great job screwing up that game. EA, I really appreciate it. Though had 11 years, man. You had 11 years to get this right.
There are some flaws. I've been enjoying it still.
I enjoyed the recruiting and all that stuff too, but like, the gameplay is still very, very flawed. I'm hoping that next year will be better, but
it's not overly fluid. It feels not fluid to me, I'll say. But I still
that's how I would put it as well. But those players get like $600. It's not like they're getting like this amount and a free copy of the game, you know, so that's great too. But it's not like they're getting these huge amounts. No, there's exceptions. There are quarterbacks who are going to probably in 5 years, somebody like an Arch Manning is going to make like $10 million, right?
Yes,
like you're going to see something along those lines.
Paul Skeens LSU scholarship for $10 million.
Yeah, exactly. Presented by Livy Dunn.
Yes.
There are going to be those type of guys, but that's not happening right now. And every time you see one of these big salaries, be it in college football, whatever, just think how much money they're making in order to justify paying that amount of money. And I know for most of you folks, this is Captain Obvious. You know how sports works and stuff like that. But sometimes I have to have that conversation with my grandma. She, like, when I explained the Juan Soto contract, I was like, she was like, $51 million to play a game. And I was like, yeah, billions of dollars to own a team. Like, this is how it works. But back to the college football thing, I am excited. I think you make a good point about the dilution. The one thing I've always loved about college football is how much the regular season matters, right? Like, and it still matters, you know.
It's interesting to cut you. I say not to cut you off, but I just decided to say to cut you off. Yeah, that is literally what I'm doing. It's like a push and pull because it is sad. It was sad watching Georgia, Texas. First off, it was sad watching Texas in the SEC. I do hate that.
Yeah.
It was sad watching that game and just knowing like it didn't matter. So it's made some games that used to matter so much not matter, but then it has made, you know, other games matter. It's made some games matter less and other games matter like so much more. So like an Indiana football game mattering is like, holy shit.
I didn't think about this right now. Maybe Georgia, Texas did matter because with the Carson Beck injury, right? Would they say, especially with Alabama having a head-to-head win over Georgia, would they maybe say, similar to what they did with Florida State and punishing them for the Jordan Travis injury, and Gunnar Stockton, you know, was a top 5 recruit or whatever the hell, but you've seen very little, and he didn't look great, I think, in that SEC championship game. But I kind of wonder if maybe they would have said, maybe Alabama deserves this a little more. I just thought of that literally as you're saying it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd probably not, because they just would have been like, Gunnar, he didn't look good, but you know, he's such a big recruit.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't the sense with Jordan Travis and FSU, like, I think wasn't the backup just like a total non-entity? The backup had almost as much to do with it as the injury, I feel like. And
boy, watching Florida State, by the way, without Jordan Travis should get the Heisman Trophy.
He should have the retroactive Heisman.
The retroactive one.
Yes.
By the way, I can never think of that term, retroactive. That's the term I've been trying to use. I am excited. I actually like the home game thing, especially because
to be clear, I do like it.
Yeah. It's the best idea. Like, it's better than, you can't have the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl be a playoff game, man. You can't do that, man.
Does anything catch more strays, by the way, than the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl?
No, I made fun of it yesterday because YouTube allows you to opt out of AI training, and I couldn't have I said I opted out of that faster than a bowl prospect for playing in the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl. It's but I am excited to see like how much, and I'm also curious to see how this is going to do, Pat, because they're going to be going up against the NFL. Now, day-wise, not so much. Like, there's some Tuesday, Wednesday games that are going to happen because they're playing on New Year's Day and stuff. But the NFL is still king. Like, as much as we just talked about how, or at least I talked about, you were too scared to do it, how the product was flawed and all of that. It's still the absolute king, in part because of fantasy sports. Fantasy in college, which I wrote about for a long time, is still not even close to the popularity of some other stuff. But I'll be curious to see if those games it's going to really depend on the matchups. Because
it's been so long since the NFL and college football have like meaningfully competed in any way. Because the NFL used to try to avoid it. As we've talked about recently, I think you and I on the phone, like the NFL like just refuses to play nice with anyone anymore.
Correct.
But it's been so long since like a college game that mattered competed with any NFL game.
Right.
So I will be fascinated to see. I'm sure the NFL will be depressing, like doubles them up in viewers still or whatever. But we'll be fascinated to see the numbers on that.
Yeah, and I think matchups are going to matter because like there's a chance that we might get Boise State SMU. Like, is that really going to do as well as say, and you know, that'll be on a New Year's Day and everyone's going to watch it. They're going to be too hungover to really care who the matchup is, if we're being completely honest. Okay. Before we get to the second half, I want you to play my baseball reference game. Are you familiar with my baseball reference game?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with your baseball reference game.
Okay, so my baseball reference game is much different than theirs. And by the way, thank you, Immaculate Grid. You sent me a hat. I meant to wear it. I forgot, but thank you, Immaculate
Please send
Grid.
me a hat. I'm a StatHead subscriber. I'm the biggest reference website devotee you will ever find.
Well, here's what I like is I love baseball reference, and I'm not going to tell you too much about them because you've absolutely heard of them. Like, Grandma, if you're watching this, how did you figure this out? And number two,
best website on the internet.
Best website on the internet. So what I like to do, Pat, is I'm obsessed with team pages, and I was going through some, just bored out of my mind, showing just how unbelievably single I am going through this stuff. And I was obsessed with going down to the top 12. So, on Baseball Reference, they'll give you the top 12 players for every team, right? Like they'll buy ones above replacement.
The pictures always look very what's the word? Dissonant.
Yes.
Like the eras don't match, like the styles and colors don't match.
It's very funny when there's like a guy who's played recently and a guy who has played not so recently on the same team but by the way, best page for that, 1993 Philadelphia Phillies, ugliest group of men you will ever see in your entire life.
The two underdiscussed forebears to like the idiot Red Sox teams, or whatever they're called.
Yes. Okay, so what I would do is I would go to the team page and I would scroll very quickly just to the top 12. And I would look at those numbers, and then I would see if I could add up the numbers and guess how many games that team won. And I found after I was doing it a while, I was pretty good at it, but it takes some time. So Patrick, I'm going to give you a team and you're going to tell me how many games this team won. I'm also going to tell you when this player is a pitcher, because there's a big difference that I have found between a 7-win pitcher and a 7-win hitter in terms of team success, because those guys are only playing one game. All right, here we go.
All right.
Number 1, 8.2 pitcher.
Wow.
Number 2, 8.2. Number 3, 6.4. Number 4, 5.6. Number 5, 3.5. Number 6, 3.2 pitcher. Number 7, 2.6. Number 8, 2.4. Number 9, 2.2 pitcher. Number 10, 2.1. Number 11, 2. And number 12, 1.9 relief pitcher. How many games did that team win?
First off, can I just add, this was not the 2016 Cubs, was it?
This was not the 2016 Cubs.
I mean, 2 8-win players. The 10th player was over 2, I think you said?
1.9.
I mean, that sounds like 102 and 60 to me, to be honest. That sounds like the upper echelon for sure.
Is that your guess?
102 and 60.
Very close. It was 101 and 61.
Okay, yeah.
Would you like to tell me who this team was?
My guess was that I was like, did Chris Bryant have 8 more? like Jake Arrieta probably did. Tell me what decade. I can maybe guess.
1980s.
1980s. The 80s are a bit of a baseball history blind spot for me. And the 86 Mets, 84 Mets, a Mets team. I'm guessing a Mets. No, well, yeah. The 84 Mets did not win 101. A Mets team is all I'm going to say.
Come on, Pat. It's the Cardinals. It's the 1985 St. Louis Cardinals.
Would you Bob Forsch have like 8 points? Who had the 8 whip on the pitching staff?
Now, Pat, do you remember a few years ago while we were dealing with that pandemic and we did a certain draft where we put together the best seasons, and your team was reprehensibly bad, like wow bad. Now look, we were all guessing except for some people who were not guessing, and it was very clear.
I had never done what's that called,
a what if sports. I believe
I had never done a what if league before.
Same with me, and my team was fine, but there were guys who have played that before and they killed us. But I took this player fairly early. It's John Tudor. Tudor.
Yeah, that makes a lot. I know it wasn't Joaquin Andahar. He was never.
That was number 12. Can you tell me the position player?
The 8.2. I mean, it had to be Willie, right?
That is correct. It was Willie McGee, and then Ozzie Smith with the 6.4, Tommy Herr with the 5.6, Andy Van Slyke, who I always forget played for the Cardinals, 3.5, Danny Cox 3.2, and then Jack Clark with a just horrific photo of him and his just massive eyebrows. Well, he's a member of the Giants at 2.6. All right. We're going to get to the second half of the show, but first I have to thank Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Awesome stuff for the Mariners, the Supersonics, Kraken, Storm, Sounders. You can find it all at simplyseattle.com. Use code MOLLYWOP15 to save 15% off your order. MOLLYWHOP15. Simply Seattle, the very best. Holiday shopping's coming up. Holiday shopping's closing, but even afterwards, use your money that you get from great Aunt Phyllis on stuff at Simply Seattle. It's the very best. Thank you so much, simplyseattle.com. All right, Pat, what are we talking about?
Well, I had no clue that John Tudor had ever had an 8-war season. Like, I was like, I don't think Bob Forsch ever had an 8-war season, but he was the only like even remotely plausible guess I could come up with. I did not know. I was not familiar with their game, John Tudor. Cardinals fans still talk about John Tudor all the time, but I never knew that he
apparently
had
John Tudor was not necessarily the nicest guy to the media. And it was brought up that I had John Tudor and Kevin Brown on my roster, who are two guys who are just notorious cranks, to put it the nice way. Dickheads, if we're being completely honest.
If we are. Okay. Earlier, I said Baseball Reference is the best website. That was a bit of a lie. Because it's one of the 3 or 4 best websites ever. Our topic today will be the actual best website in the entire world, and it is Wikipedia.
Okay, great.
Is our topic. And
awesome.
I'm not even sure what a launching off point is for discussion of Wikipedia, but I'll just start then with this. What do you think is your most viewed Wikipedia of all time? And maybe you actually can't even think of a guess. If you can't think of a guess, like, what's your most viewed trope of Wikipedia? Like list of Mariners seasons.
What
is your most viewed Wikipedia page ever?
So I don't know the most viewed. I know the most edited.
I've never edited a Wikipedia page.
I'm not proud of this. But I edited the Tyrone Willingham page quite a bit, and most of it was not nice stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Most of it was not nice stuff. Now, look, you have to understand, Pat, that Tyrone Willingham ruined. Look, I know you're not supposed to like 2 college football teams or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't go to either school. I couldn't have gotten into either school. But I love the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and I love the Washington Huskies. I've thought about which team I'd root for in a national championship. I think it's Washington, but it's close. It would be a very weird week for me. But Tyrone Willingham ruined both of those institutions. And what I would usually do to be kind of nice is I would just put parentheticals around the term coach or one or, born, that type of thing. But every once in a while he became a gargoyle, and every once in a while I would add Bible passages that suggested that maybe that he wasn't going to be. But that would be my most edited, my most viewed trope. I would have to say this. I'm a bit of a weirdo. I love movies, as you know.
I do too. I do too, actually, yes.
I am fascinated by the part of movies that you shouldn't be fascinated by the box office totals.
Oh, yes.
So
big same.
I go into checking that stuff out. For instance, and this is the fun part about this subject, is because it can lead down a bunch of stuff. I found out through Wikipedia and then Box Office Mojo, which, by the way, speaking of great websites,
amazing reference.
Yep. But unfortunately, IMDb bought it, and it's just not the same.
I know they don't do like news articles anymore or anything. No, it's still okay for the raw data.
The raw data is fine. Yeah. But even that's a little bit different now, because IMDb Pro doesn't let you do a bunch of the old inflation things that you used to be able to do. Anyway, that would probably be my number one trope, but I I found out that Ice Age is a massive hit overseas through Wikipedia. Massive hit. Like some of the highest grossing, what I would usually do, like if on Box Office Mojo, is I would sort by domestic and overseas, and then the percentage they would do that, and that's another thing that went away. And the percentage for Ice Age was like 83% overseas. You would never think of that.
No.
Like, why
seems like a very American movie. Yes.
Why is Ray Romano, John Leguizamo selling all of these seats in France and Japan and stuff? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But that would be number one for me. Anything movie related. Like I do a lot of sports stuff,
I've been down to a lot of movie rabbit holes.
But is that number one for you? Probably movies?
No. God.
Okay.
No, you asked me earlier if I liked history. I thought earlier it's so embarrassing. There's no way my most visited Wikipedia of all time is not just the World War II Wikipedia. And
Sure.
it leads, to so any good Wikipedia has so many like launching off points. And like you could be on like the World War II Wikipedia, and like 20 minutes later, you're like, how am I on like the 1964 Summer Olympics Wikipedia page?
Yeah.
Like, how did this happen? Or like, yeah, or you can honestly 20 minutes later be on the Ice Age Wikipedia somehow.
Sure.
From the World War II Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, the history rabbit holes you can go down.
Oh my
is
God.
like this so astonishing. I mean, the baseball ones though are second, like on the list.
Yeah.
Because I recently read a biography on Ty Cobb, A Terrible Beauty by
Real
Charles
nice guy.
Learson. I forget his name. And so I was on like all these old timey baseball Wikipedias, and each old timey baseball Wikipedia just like begat like 5 other old timey baseball Wikipedias. Learned a lot about the pre-Major League Baltimore Orioles, by the way. They were one of the powerhouses of late 19th century baseball. They of course went defunct then.
Right.
They were a powerhouse. But Wikipedia is a lot of like the listeners like the Roto Football Show, or just anyone who's followed me for any amount of time on social media, is my devotion to Wikipedia, and just like there's so many there's the lists on Wikipedia. I've come over the years. I've seen lists of murdered popes. This is a real one, because there's not just one pope that's been murdered. There's one. It requires like an entire list. There was a list of popes with children.
Mm-hmm.
There was a list of married popes. One of my favorites ever was list of pirates. I think I was just on like Blackbeard's Wikipedia one time or something. And there's like a list of pirates. Coaching ones though. There's just so many. Wikipedia is the gift that never, ever, ever stops giving.
That's got to be up there for me too, because I find coaching hires fascinating. In particular, coordinator hires for some reason are always really interested in me, especially for college sports, because I don't know, there's just something about like looking at seeing how patient an organization was with some guys compared to others, and seeing like, there was one particular defensive coordinator for a long time who we won't talk about, Pat, who was there with that in a Happy Valley situation for a very long time. But there are lots in different, like I would, what I would do if I was really bored is I would go to, just a random team like Jacksonville State and just like kip back each year to see who the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, who the head coach and stuff like that. So you're a little bit younger than me. Did the Wikipedia, as Pierce used to say on Community, was that a thing for you in school? Did you?
Well, no. So here's the thing about Wikipedia, and I bet it's different now, the reputation. But like the first thing, so I'm 38, if your listeners don't know.
Okay.
And the first thing you would learn about Wikipedia oftentimes would be in high school, like people like being really serious about Wikipedia, like you can't cite Wikipedia. Because, obviously you can't just cite Wikipedia.
Sure.
And just like Wikipedia starting out, Wikipedia was like kind of like the first AI panic. And there should be an AI panic. I'm not saying there shouldn't be.
100%.
But Wikipedia was the first like teachers in high school, teachers in college. Like my students are just taking stuff right off Wikipedia. Like, what do we do about this? And like, like kind of scaremongering and like boogeymanning Wikipedia. And so it was like a lot of people's like introduction to Wikipedia. So I think it took a lot of people a long time to realize like just what like an astounding resource it is on everything.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't just copy and paste from Wikipedia. But the people in high school, they wouldn't tell you like, don't cite Wikipedia. Just go to the references and see know, what Wikipedia is citing. Like they were so like scared and concerned about Wikipedia that it was kind of like a third rail when I was in school.
Yeah.
Like don't just go to Wikipedia. And so I feel like it started a lot of people off on the wrong foot with Wikipedia in my generation.
And why? Because if you think about it, I get the paranoia.
And like you going in there and calling Tyrone Willingham,
Sure. But you know what? If you're smart, the one thing Wikipedia has always had is the ability to search for edit history and look up stuff.
Yes.
And if you saw Big Guy 69 editing the page, then you know what? Maybe do some fact checking,
Yes.
And because I think one of the things I sometimes struggle with the education system, and look, my sister's a teacher and my brother-in-law's a teacher, and my mom was a teacher, and it's been passed down generation to generation. But one of the things I sometimes struggle with education is how much for profit everything is. And it feels like to me, one of the things that maybe they were saying don't look at Wikipedia is, boy, it's really hard to justify selling this book if people are doing it on Wikipedia. You know what I mean? And there are lots of great teachers. I think some bad teachers maybe hate Wikipedia because they don't want things to be easy. You know what I mean?
They don't want to be contradicted. We're like, you can.
Oh gosh, no.
There's a super easily accessible reference website where what I just said can be easily contradicted.
Did you guys have in-school suspension as a thing when you were a kid?
I went to Catholic school, but it rings a bell.
So you had rulers instead of
yeah. They just senselessly beat us. Yeah.
So I got in-school suspension ISS twice. One time was because I used the teacher's bathroom, and it was because
that'll do it.
At Nisqually Middle School, shout out Nisqually Middle School, you absolutely wretched place. They took these doors off the stalls in the bathroom. So if you wanted to go number 2, you had to do that in front of everybody. So I went in and I used it. And funny story, when I told my mom that, she sent me a pizza. She sent me a pizza for in-school suspension because she realized how big a bull crap it was that I had to do that. The second time was I was arguing with the substitute teacher who kept saying that Seattle was in Pierce County. She just kept screaming it. And I said, no, it's not. It's in King County. This is the most obvious thing.
Quite literally not a debate. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an actual facts don't care about your feelings moment. Yes. I always knew that you would have one of these on these, but those are the 2 times. And it's funny though, that teachers, and again, love them, super underpaid, blah, yada, 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 all that stuff. There are, just like any other job, there are people who really take the job as maybe because they really just want to be an authoritative figure.
So you can get, if you have an authoritarian impulse, but like say you don't want to wreck America, for instance, and you just want to instead wreck a few young people's lives. Sure. Being a teacher would be very easy.
Yeah. But I did not have Wikipedia growing up. I think it got founded just like right after school started. Now I went to college later and I used Wikipedia a lot, and nobody told me anything about don't just look at Wikipedia at that point, because
I think they were done scaremongering it by the time I was in college, I think.
Yeah, and definitely fact check stuff. Like I said, I would check the edit history. I would check and see if I could find anything else. What's interesting now is with Google being so into this AI thing that gives you the AI answer, sometimes you have to scroll a long way to get to Wikipedia. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have. It's annoying because Wikipedia clearly should just be the top search result.
100%.
Well, 2 things. Baseball reference should always be the top baseball search result. It's annoying. It feels like very at random when baseball reference isn't the number 1.
Yeah.
Like, why is BREF 8 on the Jose Reyes page? Like,
yes,
that doesn't really make sense to me.
No,
Wikipedia should always just be, because most of the time this is the only thing you're looking for. It's like I need to click the Wikipedia. I need to find out where this guy was an offensive coordinator before he took this job, or I want to find out like what the band's second most recent album. You can go to All Music for that too.
Oh man, that's such a good one for music too. Is like
it's unbelievable.
So like finding out like what album, and like finding, what I like to do too is like, because not to be too big a nerd, there'll be times where I will usually the most popular song on an album is not my favorite song, but I will always be curious to think, I wonder if other people think this is popular too. And
which links are blue on any given album.
That's exactly it. It's exactly it. Which songs made enough of a cultural impact that they have that actual link, And then sometimes I just forget, like, hey, I'm the biggest Beastie Boy fan in the world. I sometimes definitely forget, was this on Check Your Head? Was this on Ill Communication? Was this on like Eglio P. Eglio, which really shows me that I have a little bit of a history with these guys. Pat, I thought of something funny we could do, or fun we could do, maybe funny.
Right.
Why don't we go to a random Wikipedia page?
All right. What's the protocol?
That's the thing is I'm on Wiki right now. It used to be just go to random article.
I am on the list of pirates Wikipedia.
Okay.
I think one of the most random, I think it's not actually, whenever I think of a random Wikipedia, I have no idea why, I think of the Kentucky Bend. Do you know what the Kentucky Bend is?
God, no. Teach me.
The Kentucky Bend, variously called the New Madrid Bend, Bessie Bend, or Bubble Land, is an exclave of Fulton County, Kentucky, that is encircled by the states of Tennessee and Mississippi. So there's a part of Kentucky that does not touch Kentucky. It's just in the middle of the Mississippi River. And it's one of the least known like geographical facts of America that there is a Kentucky island that somehow is in the middle. Not somehow, it's in the middle. The Mississippi River is very wide at this part. And so there's an exclave of Kentucky that is, it does not touch Kentucky. And this was somehow something that had fascinated me at one point. And I always think, I have no idea why, when people like mention like a random, it's not an island actually, by the way. That's what made it even weirder. It's part of Kentucky that touches, like Missouri or Tennessee. And I've always think of the Kentucky Bend Wikipedia when I think of a random Wikipedia. I have no idea why. It's probably not good enough for this exercise you want to do.
No, it's great. By the way, Kentucky Bend sounds more like, I got the Kentucky Bend.
I know. It doesn't sound good. Nothing good ever comes to the Kentucky Bend.
So I found something called Wiki Roulette. And let's see where this takes us. Okay.
You can do random on Wiki, I know too.
So I went on Wiki and I couldn't find the random button. So I'm just gonna go to this Wiki Roulette, and the first article that comes up. That's not interesting. I'm gonna go to one more. Okay. Morpho Uranus, which is a neotropical butterfly. It is found in Brazil, in the Amazons, and Ecuador. It's a large butterfly. The forewings have a concave outer edge. The upper side is dark indescent. Is that indescent blue? Except for this, it is very similar to Morpho Eugenia and has been placed on the Morpho Eugenia or Eugenie subspecies Uranus. And also interesting here, the guy who wrote about the big study guy is named Hans Frosthofer. Which, when I think of butterfly experts, I think immediately of somebody named Hans Frosthofer.
Hans Frosthofer, of course.
He writes here that M. uranus spates is an extraordinary rare species. In addition to the type, only 3 examples seem to be known, which were collected by Dr. Hanel at Iquitos in Pebes. According to Staudinger, Uranus has the upper surface blue with brilliant mother-of-pearl gloss and is larger and broader winged. Its flight is more regular and not so rapid of that as Adonis. Interesting. So we learned about butterflies today.
Many exotic species in Uranus. Was that what you said?
By the way, the
most juvenile joke I could possibly think of.
The first one was about ultrasound imaging, and I just didn't feel like that was going to be.
So I found the random Wikipedia button on the site.
Okay.
It's a little hard to find. And the very first one that popped up was Beamish Railway Station. And Beamish, here's the first keyword. Beamish was a railway station that served the village of Beamish in County Durham, Northeast England. Maybe some of your ancestors are here. A rail station that existed from 1894 to 1953, defunct now for over 70 years, has its own Wikipedia. And if you just want to know the wonders of this website, the absolutely insane things you can find here.
Well, that's what's interesting to me too, Pat, is I'm always fascinated by what does and what doesn't have a Wikipedia page. And I
found another amazing one when you're done, by the way.
Okay. Because I think what's interesting, being a movie guy, they're very careful about not creating stuff like about rumored movies. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like what they'll be is like, don't create this page yet. For instance,
they put them on a list. They get thrown on a list.
Yes, that's the thing, is that so Bluey, they just announced they're coming out with a movie. I'm the huge Bluey fan. Me and my nieces watch it. Me just watch it personally. Get paid to talk about things. But I could get that you just put in the article of the main page of the show that, hey, in 2027, a movie's coming out, that type of thing. But then you see some of these random ass things that cannot have people like, and you wonder if like Big Wiki is like, you know what? Okay, you're related to this guy, sure, we'll give him a Wikipedia page, that type of thing. But it's fascinating for me to see what does and doesn't have a wiki page.
They're very prickly about that, is all I know. And
yeah,
it's like very like weird. Like there's lots of like internal Wikipedia power politics, and like where like they're very sensitive sometimes about that. Like I don't know if it's like they want to like maintain standards. Like they definitely don't want it to become like the kind of site where like people are essentially publishing their own biographies.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Sometimes they can be a little excessive, yeah. With I don't know. I'm pretty sure Roger Goodell needs a Wikipedia page by now. Seems like he should. Speaking of Roger Goodell, the next random one that popped up for me was the Buck Buchanan Award, and it is awarded annually to the most outstanding defensive player in the Division Football Championship subdivision, formerly Division I AA of college football. And so the Buck Buchanan, the most outstanding player in Division I AA, has its own Wikipedia page. And most of the players are blue. There are several reds, though. And in fact, the 2020 winner of this award is red. But the past three are all blue. So it's notable enough. Yeah, so that is notable enough to get a Wikipedia page, by the way. Winning an FCS award.
The thing about Buck Buchanan, and I hate that I know this, is
I do not.
His real name is not Buck. His name is Junius.
Junius. That's even better.
Which is the only time I think I've ever seen the name Junius. Now, when I hear the name Junius, I typically think of like, oh, what league does he play in? Is he La Liga? Did he start in Brazil or did he make the move over? But no, Junius Buchanan, who was a very good player for the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe.
He's in a very grainy Chiefs photo.
Because I remembered that fact while you're doing it, because it would have been hilarious to me from what we just talked about if the Buck Buchanan Award had a page and Buck Buchanan did not. But there's no way Buck Buchanan doesn't have a page.
No, okay. I immediately clicked on it, and it's Junius Buck Buchanan, was an American professional, blah, blah, blah. He has a picture of him from Super Bowl IV that looks like it was taken with like a 4-pixel camera.
Can I try and guess where he went to college?
You can. I'm sure you know. It seems like the kind of thing you'll know somehow.
It's a historical black college.
It is.
It's not Norfolk State. Is it? Give me two guesses. Okay, wait.
Someone else has ripped off their logo.
Okay. Oh, it's Grambling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe they ripped off the logo. I'm never really sure who stole the logo first, Green Bay or Grambling.
But see, and this is the thing about Wikipedia and Baseball Reference and all of these websites, man. I totally understand why people struggle with time management, because it's really easy to just like here's the thing. I was just looking at my phone the other day and I realized I don't have a single game installed on the phone except for Tetris. Tetris is the one that I have, and that is for 4 o'clock in the morning those nights. And after playing a few games of that, rotating, being very frustrated that I can't get the long piece, I finally am able to fall asleep. But I realized it's because I don't need games. I don't need it because there's so many other ways. Even me, who doesn't have kids, who is, like I said, it's super single guy, ladies. There's so many other ways to waste time. But I get why sometimes people too, boy, and this is one of the dangers of our job, Pat, is that, we're in a job where we aggregate news a lot, right? And we're on the internet. And boy, it's easy to get distracted. Boy, it's easy to be on that Wikipedia page.
You're telling me.
Yeah, man. And there are, if you were going to have to block off a website just to be like, how, and I'm not saying certain websites, but I'm saying if there was one website where you're on your shift, and we usually work 8-hour shifts for news. Sometimes we work 4, but it's usually 8. If there was one website you had to block, would it be Wikipedia?
No. It would be the far more obvious one that we could not block because we need it for our job. That would be the social media platform formerly known as Twitter.
Oh, or
now Blue Sky, of course.
Yeah.
It's the classic, the Simpsons quote, alcohol is the source of and solution to all of life's problems. Twitter is that for our job because you need it. And then it's also the single most distracting thing you could ever have.
Yeah, I think that would probably be number one for me too. Like, look, I've stopped tweeting, but I have to keep it going because there just aren't enough people who have made the switch over yet.
Not enough. There's a lot, but yeah, not enough yet. Not enough.
Yeah, not quite enough yet. And let's talk about that real quick because I struggled with the switch for a while. It was something I was thinking about doing even before the melted crayon got his way. But when the melted crayon got his way, it was a pretty easy switch for me. And but it hurt because look, Pat, you've got like 65,000 followers, 70, something along that line. You've built a fan base, and just little old me has been, I think it was at the time, it was like 14 and a half. It's dropped to 13 and a half. I just noticed that the other day. And I think that, some of it has to do with political stuff. Some of that has to do with people have deleted it. And some of it is like, well, if you're not going to tweet, I'm not going to don't have to follow you. But it's hard. It was hard to give that up. And knowing that stuff that I was publishing was not going to get as much eyeballs, especially on YouTube, especially on this, it was going to be something where now I think it became a lot easier because I have to admit, I was ignorant to the fact that Twitter was basically the algorithm was not kind to links. And Blue Sky, which, I think I'm up to 5 now, which, it's a decent amount.
It's very, very good.
Yeah,
I'm only to 6.
Yeah. And you are much more popular than me, much more good looking than me. And that matters in these types of things. But the engagement is insane comparatively. Insane. Did that make it easier when you heard people talking about the engagement to come over to Blue Sky, or was it just more of again, it's not meant as a mean thing. Was your switch over kind of a, well, just in case type of thing?
Kind of a just in case. I mean, so many different thoughts on this. So with Twitter, I have the same problems as everyone else. The person who owns it, like the environment, already with Blue Sky, some people are like thinking back to the early days of Twitter and like kind of like mythologize. Everyone, the environment has never been like amazing. It's been pretty great. It's actually overstated. It's usually a pretty great environment. But there's always the bad apples have always been there. But I tried, so I had the same problems as everyone else, but I tried to take the view like, listen, man, like I was here first. Like just because like this guy owns it and is trying to make it difficult and doing really annoying things, I'm not just gonna leave because I've been here for 15 years. I've been building this audience, whatever. I hate using that word.
Sure.
For 15 years. So I tried to hold out because I'm like we've invested so much time and energy into this. Like we shouldn't just let one person ruin it. But then truly, not to get political, when the election went the way it did, so the election was definitely like, I viewed that as like, I hate this phrase too, but like a hinge point.
Yeah.
Like if so-and-so loses this election, the owner of this website, I feel like it's the first time ever he's going to actually think about selling. And so I was kind of like trying to just make it to the election. And like, if the election goes the other way than it did, like maybe we'll actually sell it. Maybe the site will begin reverting more to what it once was. But when that didn't happen, I was like, all right, I'm annoyed by this. I know other people I'm always like very cautious and all this. I knew a lot of other people wouldn't be cautious and people would be like, screw this, I'm leaving, which is what happened. Mm-hmm. And so it basically became like unavoidable at that point. Like you could just like, if you're going to be in our position, you had to start hedging your bets and creating a Blue Sky. So a lot of people like left in a huff. A huff is not the right word, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they left like emotionally. I'm not trying to like downplay. They left for valid reasons, but they left like as an emotional decision.
Yeah, no question about it.
The problem for Twitter is not that the people left. It is what they're finding at Blue Sky, which is not, the audience. Listen, Blue Sky is a Twitter clone. It will just be Twitter at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
But it wasn't just that they left Twitter. It's what they found in Blue Sky, which is what everyone finds, is that even though you intellectually understand the Twitter algorithm is like jacked, you have no clue just how throttled the algorithm is until you get to Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And you do start seeing the engagement on links again, which I don't understand. I do not genuinely have no idea why Twitter views the links as bad. But I had no idea that it was truly that throttled until I got to Blue Sky and saw what it's like to have an unthrottled link.
And maybe I'm guilty of just ignorance here, but like, I didn't know it was happening at all. But like, and I was thinking, you know what? There's just a lot of people who are doing similar stuff to me that, like, I get it that the people aren't as interested. And I think there is something too to be said about on Blue Sky right now, that there are people who really want to make this work, so are much more likely to click on something than they were, a few years ago. There's no question there's some of that, but there's just also no denying that, like, stuff wasn't showing up in feeds. You know what I mean?
No, truly.
And I love my puns. I didn't love that my puns were being viewed more than my YouTube videos. You know what I mean?
No,
like, that's
I know.
not something that should happen. Like, there's a borderline evilness to it. And it's really hard for me. Now, I don't think less of people who continue to tweet, because I totally understand it. Like, you got to make your money. And I feel like you probably, especially someone who's built up really an organic fan base like you have, and I built up fairly organic.
You have too.
That you feel maybe an obligation to those people, like to be like, what, these people have supported me for a really long time. Maybe I should keep doing this. But ultimately, I just couldn't keep doing it. Like, I couldn't keep doing it. But and another but to the but is that I don't blame anybody for keeping doing it.
I'm not trying to be pretentious, because I know people aren't going to choose to use the service based on whether or not I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to be. My thought has been, whatever. I'm not going to be the one who makes people choose. I'm just going to do both and just see what happens. Like, I know I'm not taking a moral stand. I'm hedging my bets and all this.
Yeah.
But I don't. Basically, my answer has been I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do kind of the worst of both worlds and double roast for now.
Now, I have to ask, because, I have to be on that website. Do you copy paste?
I've been copy pasting. Yes. Yeah. It's the worst. I'm telling you, I posted and I was I'm sorry. I know I don't know what to do.
No,
and I do some exclusives too. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But I don't know what to do. I'm just trying to it's yet another thing. Going back to you say education for profit, information for, it's just yet another thing that did not need to be screwed up.
No.
Twitter just did not need to be. It was screwed up enough as it was.
Sure.
It just by us. It just did not need to be screwed up. That's bringing trying to bring all this full circle. The idea of baseball reference or Wikipedia falling some of the same forces, the for-profit forces. Becoming it's very. There's so few good resources and websites left. And we have to start doing it sounds silly to say we have to protect a website, but we have to start doing better jobs protecting the actual valuable resources. And the internet doesn't have to be the way it is.
No. And unfortunately, because of the way our jobs work, and, I think it's a tough one to explain to people who aren't on it, but the fact that you literally have to be on Twitter for 8 hours a day, refreshing and refreshing and refreshing.
Yes.
That they've made themselves, unfortunately, I hate this phrase, kind of too big to fail.
They have.
And I wish
they're putting that to the test, though.
No question.
Insane.
There's no question about it.
It's insane it's even gotten to this point.
Oh, it was fail proof. How could you screw this up, man? All you have to do is just be normal. All you have to do is
it was the ultimate, just be normal.
All you had to do was make it so people could express their thoughts and also be Google Reader at the same time. Yes, and by the way, Google Reader was something that shouldn't have failed either.
Unbelievable. It's still one of the great failures of the
internet. Our good buddy Drew Silva laments the failure of Google Reader as somebody who absolutely, some people say they hate Twitter, and then you no, you don't. You tweet all sorts of things. Drew Silva hated Twitter. Hated Twitter so much that the dude's a gosh damn mailman now. Let's just
He's posting Twitter too. Yeah, he didn't delete, but he doesn't post.
Yeah. Hey, the only thing he would do every once in a while is post some food stuff. Hey, made some eggs.
Some music stuff too. He would partake sometimes.
For sure. Had a really bad take once on accents, and I can say that now because he'll never watch this. But other than that, he was pretty. But that was a dude who hated Twitter, and Google Read hit going away probably broke his heart more than any person that I could possibly meet. Pat, you could never break my heart because you're just so wonderful, and you picked a perfect subject. Please tell everybody all about the good stuff you're doing.
Well, we're wrapping up the season of RotoWorld. Of course,
sure. All right.
The season's coming in. The RotoWorld football show with Denny Carter. It's our pride and joy right now.
Mhm.
Publishing several weekly articles, but at the end, your season's over. I don't even need to talk about my articles. The off season's coming. I'm going to start doing my off season articles, like my annual. You want to talk about pretentious? My compendiums on coaches and general managers will be coming in the next few months. Just lots of writing, lots of blurbing, lots of posting. Still on Twitter, on the Blue Sky, of course, at RotoPat. And I don't know. I'm gonna do some. I want to do some non-sports off-season writing projects too. I haven't decided what to do. I haven't done one in a while, and I want to do one.
I'm spoiler alert for anybody who makes it all hour 10, and I sure hope you do. I think I'm going to start doing movie reviews. Like, it sounds like something fun to do. You know what I mean? Like,
it's so hard to write about movies and music. As someone who's always loved both and has written about both.
Yeah.
It was always confounding. Like, all right, I loved this cut.
So I got kind of the urge to do it because when I was doing the podcast before Pat decided to fire me, Pat was the guy who actually decided to fire me.
Of course, yes. I was the one who did that. Yes.
He was the guy who made that decision. But before that, I was hosting Circling the Bases, and I had Christy Lemire of the Los Angeles Times and Alonzo Duralde of the Rap on, and we talked about baseball movies. And I've been following that podcast forever, but like actually talking about them and feeling like I didn't completely sound like an idiot was like, oh, okay. And then I did one with Christy on The Sandlot and got yelled at a lot, like a lot, because that movie sucks, Pat. It's a bad movie. It's a bad movie. And thankfully, Christy, the professional film critic, agreed with me that The Sandlot.
Chris did nothing wrong.
Yep, that's perfect.
I can't think of what my favorite baseball movie is, by the way.
Mine's Everybody Wants Some, which is cheating because it's not really a baseball
movie. Have
movie.
never seen it. I love Richard Linklater, however you say it, but I have not seen Everybody Wants Some.
Have you seen his most recent one?
No, I have not. I heard it's very good.
Very good. And Glenn Powell.
You know what's weird is 3 kids, I did not fall behind on movies. Somehow the 4th child is what finally caused me to fall behind on movies for the first time ever in my life. I'm not like hopelessly behind. It was the first time ever in my life I've been like behind. 3, it was easy.
Sure.
4, somehow that was what the straw that broke the camel's back.
The Catholicism comes for us all, RotoPat.
It does.
The Catholicism comes for us all. By the way, real quick, I know you were a big The Lighthouse fan. Are you excited for Nosferatu?
I am. It looks a little, overwrought's not the right word. It looks very like highly stylized, and I loved The Witch. Yeah. I loved The Lighthouse. I liked The Northman. I didn't love The Northman.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine. Yeah.
The reviews for Nosferatu are insanely good.
Yes, they are. I've
noticed. My buddy, not my buddy, Keith Law's buddy. So he's buddy of a buddy. Tim Grierson said it was the best horror movie he's ever seen. So yeah.
My wife does not like horror movies. I'm not sure. Anyone want to see it with me?
Okay.
Anyone want to go see Nosferatu with me?
As long as I don't have to drive through some of those areas of Missouri, man, I'm fine with it.
No, you have to drive through every single one of them. We're on the exact. I can quite literally see into Illinois from my neighborhood. So you have to drive through the entire state to get here.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please hit like and subscribe. We'll be back in a couple weeks. I got to think of a guest. And if I don't talk to you before, happy holidays. It's Christmas and stuff.